All right, everybody, what is going on? What's up, Ginger? How you doing, buddy? So I have on backstage. I'm bringing him out now. The awesome effects artist who's done great kills for Terrifier 2, Hatchet 2 and 3, Chromeskull Laid to Rest 2, Wrath of Becky, and all excellent effects in these movies. I had the pleasure of meeting him in Jersey at New Jersey Horror Con for a bit. So without further ado, let's bring on Kill Josh Petrino. How's it going,
Hey,
man?
hey, what's up, man? How are
Well,
you?
so I was looking. I didn't see any really CGI in
Well,
my
no,
intro.
no, but I don't like CG either. I'm a visual effects artist, and
Mhm.
I think one of the things I'm excited to talk about today is a lot of people confuse visual effects with CGI.
Yeah.
And they're not one and the same. You can have visual effects and have a lot of practical elements and practical shots and mix them together, which is what we did for Terrifier. But
Mhm.
people tend to think CG and CGI and visual effects are the same thing. There is a ton of visual effects shots in your opening. So Dead Alive had a lot with
Yeah.
the eye and the mouth, of course. And
Great
Evil
stuff.
Dead. I mean, like, to composite the stop motion and put it in the cabin with Ash. You're dealing with miniatures, you're dealing with stop motion, you're dealing with a bunch of cool stuff.
Oh, all the
um
tricks that they pulled out for that
y-
film.
yeah, so those are all visual effects. So now we live in the day and age where, yeah, a lot of visual effects artists today use CG. I don't prefer it, obviously. If I have to use it, I will. But if I think the issue is people don't like bad CG. Good CG, you won't
Oh
even know
yeah,
it's there. You won't even
oh, that's
know
true.
that it exists. So I totally empathize with that thought process, and I totally feel the vibe. So CG, no. Visual effects, yeah, lots in that intro.
Well, I'm glad you made that distinction, and I'm glad that you brought up Evil Dead with the stop motion. And the last time I rewatched it, maybe a year ago, when I did a video on it for the channel, I found out a little behind the scenes thing I never knew was that Savini was going to the Maniac screening in New York City, and then two guys came down and knew Savini, recognized him, and they said, "We're working on this movie. We have this stop motion thing. You think you can come up?" And it turned out being Raimi and Talbert and
Yeah,
Tapper. That's such
so
a
cool.
cool little behind the scenes story there.
Yeah, and you
So,
hear like,
yeah,
oh, sorry. I was gonna say, and
no,
you
good.
hear stories like where Greg Nicotero saw Tom Savini and George Romero in, like, I think a restaurant in, like, Europe or something like that, and, like,
Yeah.
he was just a kid and went up to them and was like, "Oh, I want to I want to be a special effects artist." And, like, now it's Greg Nicotero is Greg Nicotero. It's cool to hear
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. So
That's why I love having the honor and pleasure of having people like you on in the horror industry and stuff, directors, actors, and just being able to hear little tidbits and stuff, from you guys that might not get out there often, or just maybe something unique that comes out on the stream here, opinion on a movie or something. I love hearing all those types of things. Like when I had Steve on, who's such a great guy, and he was like the first like bigger movie attached person I had on here. And I started talking Italian horror with him. I'm a huge Italian horror fan. And I asked him, all right, out of the top three, Argento, Fulci, or Bava? And he said Bava. I said, all right, there you go. So let's start with that question. If you're into Italian horror, out of those three, what's your favorite director?
oh man, I'm gonna have to say Argento. Um,
Okay.
I
I
love
love
black
them all.
gloves with crazy contrast lighting and knives, and I love dialogue that makes no sense. It's completely lost in translation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just love that aesthetic. And
It's so stylish. Argento's
yeah,
films,
yeah, and
Fulci's,
then
are so surreal.
yeah, I mean, Suspiria is one of my favorites. I love that film. And into opera, and just I love the genre, and I love when people tribute the genre over here, even in subtle ways. I love when people exploit it, like the Astron 6 guys. who did Psycho Gorman and
Okay, yeah,
Father's
that's so
Day,
fun.
did a movie called The Editor, and it is just an homage to Italian horror, and it's hysterical. It's a great movie. So if you like Italian horror, definitely check out The Editor. Awesome
Yeah,
movie.
I gotta check that out. Yeah, I'm a huge
Yeah,
Italian horror fan. We talk about it on this channel and the community here pretty often. There's a few of us. There's like maybe a handful that are very big into it and into other foreign films, but it's
yeah.
definitely an acquired taste for some
Yeah, it
people.
is. It is. I think a lot of horror, the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, the more you learn about it, the more you learn to love it. And there's some
Yeah,
stuff I didn't like when I was younger that it has grown on me, and now I enjoy deep cuts and obscure stuff. Suspiria is my love language. I love that. That's awesome. Um,
it's up there with me. Opera is my favorite Argento film.
yeah, opera's great. Opera's just awesome.
So,
So,
since we're talking movies here, what was the first horror film you saw or remember seeing or
um,
impacted you? Like the first film that really impacted you
the
seeing
first
it?
horror film, the first film that impacted me, uh, is happened to be a horror film. Uh, I was literally I mean, it almost sounds like bullshit because I was so young, but I was 4 years old and I saw Jaws, and
Okay.
I became obsessed with movies and just I mean Jaws opened the doors for me to love film. And I wasn't really like specific. I didn't know what genres were. Even when I was younger, I didn't really like I knew there was a horror section in the movie store and stuff like that, but I didn't like pay
Yeah.
close attention to what genres I liked because I just loved pretty much all movies. But I went to comedy and horror quite a bit and sci-fi. So I mean, my first movie was Jaws. Saw it accidentally by mistake, innocent mistake my mom made, and changed my life. And then shortly
I
after
can
that, I mean, I
imagine.
was being shown Predator and RoboCop and Terminator, which I mean, I guess they're not technically considered horror by today's standards, but at the time,
But
I
still
mean,
mind-blowing stuff. Yeah.
dude, Paul Verhoeven having that dude melt in RoboCop is like I'll put
Oh,
that up against a lot of horror movie gore and grotesqueness any day.
oh,
Um,
and how Terminator's always been compared to just being like a slasher film, at heart.
yeah, yeah, I mean it is. It really is. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of movies I think that just become so popular that they almost like jettison out of this genre for
Yeah.
purists.
Silence
Like
of the Lambs is a
yeah,
big
yeah, Silence
example
of
of
the
that.
Lambs. I mean, I consider Jurassic Park a horror film, which people think is crazy, but I
The
mean,
book
if
is
you
horrific.
what's that?
The book is great. The book has a
Yeah,
lot more
the
horror.
book is great, but even the movie, the first time you see it, I mean, people are dying, dinosaurs are attacking children.
Oh, yeah.
It's the way it's lit, everything. I mean, Dean Cundey is a genius in cinematography. He
Oh,
also
he's
shot
one of
The
the
Thing.
best. Yep.
Yeah, and you see, there's a lot of correlations. It's pretty much a horror movie. It's just packaged for McDonald's toys, so they don't really throw that word
Exactly.
around too much with a movie like that. So, but a long answer to a short question. Jaws is what kicked it off. What got me into special effects? I mean, I was watching Romero when I was younger. I was watching The Thing, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, all of that stuff, and I loved the behind the scenes stuff. So. If
Yeah.
you watched HBO in the early '90s, all the way through, I think the early 2000s, they used to have featurettes for movies all the time, or
Yep.
Nova would have like behind the scenes of how they made stuff. And
Yeah, I
and
love the behind the scenes. Like, as
I
much
did
as you can
too.
learn about a movie that you love, especially if it's a movie you adore, it's like, I wanna know everything about how this was made.
Yeah. Yeah, and I miss that. That's something I miss is like featurettes and like shows that are, dedicated to it. But I had an understanding of what special effects were even at a young age. I
Yeah.
didn't know I wanted to get into visual effects. It just seemed unreachable, But Jurassic Park kind of pushed me in that direction. And then as I got older, I just started messing around with. I revisited software I tried when I was really young, but I revisited software because it was more accessible, and I just came into by happenstance. So, but movies that influence me, man, I love horror. I love sci-fi. Some sci-fi. I'm not down with like I'm not big into Star
Yeah,
Trek. I
yeah,
don't love
I'm
it,
not a
but
Star Trek fan. I'm not. I always say I'm not a huge sci-fi fan either,
yeah,
unless it's got to be really out there and really original. Like The
yeah.
Fifth
I mean, I
Element
love
is one of my favorite films in like my top 30 movies. I love The Fifth Element.
yeah. Fifth Element's awesome. I love like, but I love Alien. I love Terminator.
No,
They're
Alien's great.
technically sci-fi
Oh
films.
yeah,
So that's kind of more what I'm down with. But I love movies, man. I think everyone in horror, I think when someone goes to a horror convention, they expect a bunch of like freaks in like gore makeup and stuff. But it's really
yeah.
I think everybody, if you talk to anybody that's at a horror con, chances are they like stuff like Indiana Jones or they like, some kind of like
Oh yeah, they're
other
just big
genre of film.
cinema fans in general. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same with the community on YouTube and all the review channels and all of that watch party channels. 'Cause we all just love. We all go outside that horror box every now and then
Yeah.
because we just love comedies or we love drama. We love all types of movies, and it's great to be able to have like such a great community. Which, like you said, some people think horror fans, and they were like, "Oh no, like it's a bunch of nutcases," but
Yeah. I
the
mean, there are
greatest the great
definitely,
oh, of course, there is in
but
everything, and there probably is a little bit of a raised rate with, the horror fan base, but for the most part, it's a really amazing community. So what
yeah.
was the first film that you worked on? How did you actually get started into, effect work?
The first film I worked on, so I tried to make my own zombie movie. And I was
Okay.
young and I was naive and but I was tenacious. So I really pulled out as many stops as I could. And I was talking to someone about visual effects because I had a ton of visual effects ideas for it. And they quoted me like an insane quote, even by today's standard, honestly, for an indie film. And I was like, well, that's a lot. Maybe I can do it myself. So I tried working on some stuff myself and I did a test. And I took a friend out in my backyard and I had him like laying on the ground and I had him like convulse as if he got hit by something. And then I took a melon filled with blood and I with a wig on it that matched his hair and I bashed it with a baseball bat and then I put it in post production and I tried in Adobe After Effects to just cut out like his face and map it to this melon.
Yeah,
Um, and Castellar, I absolutely agree with that comment. Sorry, Laid
yeah,
to
me
Rest
too.
did deserve a third part, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I'm actually going to get into Laid to Rest in a second because
Awesome.
Chromeskull was the first thing I worked on outside of my own, stuff. So
Nice.
I had this on a PSP. I had a
Yeah,
this head smash, and I went to film. I was invited to film Horror Hound Weekend just to get B-roll, just people like in costume and like some of the celebrities signing stuff. Mushroom Head
yeah.
played, so I got some footage of them. And I went up to Steve Johnson, who, if you don't know who Steve Johnson is out there, get familiar because he is, I mean, Ghostbusters. That's all I gotta say,
Yeah,
and the Howling, and just a
love that
god
album.
for special effects. And I was like, hey man, I did this thing in my backyard. Do you mind if I show you? And he's like, he is essentially Tony Stark. He looks like him. He acts like him. Uh, and he's like, yeah, just hand me the thing. And he's like, oh, oh, you did this? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, shit, this is very good. And oh, sorry, can I curse? I don't.
Oh, yeah,
Apologies.
absolutely. This is
All
not
right, cool.
not child
And
friendly at all, this channel.
he's like, hey, Rob, come over here. And this guy Rob comes and he looks at it and he's like, who did this? And I was like, I did. And he was like, how'd you do this? And I explained how I did it. And he's like, okay, have you ever seen Laid to Rest? And I was like, yeah, I saw Laid to Rest. He's like, I directed Laid to Rest. He's like, I'm working on 2 right now. Do you want to work on Laid to Rest too? And I was like, dude, I
Great.
live in New Jersey. Like, I don't know. And he's like, no, we have a way of doing it. We work remote. We use this software called Dropbox. You
Yeah.
can listen. I'll go easy on you. If you decide it's too hard, just back out. But let's talk this week. And sure enough, I gave him my number. We hung out throughout the weekend. Hung out with him and some of the Laid to Rest crew, and just a variety of people at Horror Hound. It was a great time. And then I wasn't expecting anything, and then I get a call like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Josh, it's Rob Hall. I just emailed you shots. I need you to finish them by the end of the week." And I was like, "Wait a
No
second."
pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, "Dude, I do stuff for me. I've never done stuff for someone else." He's like, "Listen, I saw what you did. You'll figure it out. If you have any questions, call me." And so I'm like, I have a million questions
Yeah.
right
And
now.
so
Can I
little
call him
time.
back? Yeah. So Chromeskull Laid to Rest 2 was the first film I worked on. I worked on a couple kills. Um, and I worked on a knife gag that was extremely difficult. And it was really like a boot camp for me because it was the worst case scenario. Rob was great at directing. He was great at
Yeah, he
prepping things for
was.
visual effects, but any film you work on, there can be unforeseen things. And there was a couple unforeseen things with the shots I was given. I had a lot of
Mm,
cable removal, and I had I had some gore with a knife going through a leg and getting pulled out, and it was just a mix of practical and real stuff. And
yeah.
and I did it, and Rob liked all of my shots, like no notes, the first like all during my submission. So when that right after that happened, there I talked to I saw a VFX artist was looking for help on a movie, and I didn't even know how I was like affiliated with him. It's just like on Twitter, and I believe Adam Green had retweeted him,
Mm,
and it was Jason Millett, a visual effects artist for all the Hatchet movies. And
okay.
he
Yeah,
was
he's
like,
great.
"Give me your reel." And I was like, "I don't have a reel. I've worked on one thing, but it was Chromeskull, and I can send you the shots I worked on." And he hired me immediately. And so I
That's
went
great.
right from Chromeskull to working for doing not working for Arescope, but working for the visual effects supervisor for Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, Chillerama, and I got into that group, and it's just been lily padding since.
Nice.
I still, to this day, I mean, this is years ago. Those movies came out in like 2010. Um,
Yeah.
I have no reel because I've just been jumping from project to
From
project.
one to the yeah, right, to one to
I haven't had
another.
time to make one, and it's so I usually just say, "Hey, tell me what you want to do. Send me the shot. I'll do a draft version of it and send it back." And I usually try to do that within a couple days, and that gets me a
Yeah.
job. So
I mean, one thing I mean, somebody mentioned, and there's a few people I know in the chat who are huge fans of Laid to Rest and Laid to Rest too,
cool.
and it's very unfortunate that the director passed, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rob passed away, a few years ago now. Um,
yeah, it's a shame.
we
We should have got another movie.
Yeah, Lay the Rest Exhumed was really cool. I was supposed to work on it. Rob and I, when I had moved out to LA,
Mm.
um, after working on Chromeskull, and I worked directly for Rob at Almost Human. And I worked on some projects there, some awesome stuff. I worked for the TV show Wilfred. I worked on some
Wilfred's
really cool
great,
movies. Yeah,
great.
really cool stuff. And then I worked on some other stuff in my own life, like some other horror movies. I produced a movie called Contracted. And
I've
then
heard of that.
yeah, Contracted was pretty popular. That one it did very well. And it's cool. It's more like art house, directed by Eric England, produced by the Boulder Light guys who just recently produced Barbarian. Um,
Okay, yeah, I gotta rewatch that because I don't remember much. I know I saw it.
yeah, it's all right. It's an indie film. It was made for like
Yeah,
$50,000. But for an indie film, I think it was a solid achievement. And
yeah.
so I in the midst of all this, I had a falling out with Rob, and I was like, you know what? I'm watching people produce movies out there, and they're like, you know, um, I helped rewrite more than half of Contracted to try to make it work, and like there's a production I was working on, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna film in this diner, but it's gonna cost $8,000 a day. And I was like,
Damn.
"Guys, fly a plane with everybody on it to New Jersey. I can get us a diner for like a month, that will feed us
Yeah,
for free." You know?
exactly.
And
There you go.
I'm just watching these numbers get tossed around in LA and just trying to meet people. And I was like, and then I had a not like really bad blood, but falling out enough with Rob where I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go home and I'm gonna try to do horror out there because I think I can work remotely. And so I moved back, and Rob and I we weren't happy with each other. And then a couple of years go by. Rob reaches out and he's like, dude, I'm sorry, I miss you. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry too, dude. And then we talked, and we were gonna work on a couple music videos and stuff like that. And like a year later, he passed away. And it was I was filming something with a mutual friend, like crazy coincidence. I was with a mutual friend, and Nick Princeby had texted him saying, "Hey, Rob had passed." So, rip.
Yeah.
It sucks. I don't think we'll see Laid to Rest 3. I wish someone would do something with it. There's a great special effects makeup artist who had worked at Almost Human for years and was like honestly the heart, aside from Rob, of Almost Human, named Eric Porn. That's his actual name.
I've heard that name.
He did a movie. Yeah, he's great. He's just an
Oh, it's great
unsung
effect.
hero in special effects. And if anyone could direct Laid to Rest 3, I think he would be amazing at it, because he was inside Rob's head for so many years, and probably would have known what he would want to see and what he would want to do. Because I feel like the
Yeah.
character never really got its chance. I feel like
Oh, I say that all the time, that
yeah,
if I feel like, and it's wild that the projects that you went from one to the other are two, and if we had Chromeskull take off more, three of the like only new slasher icons in horror,
yeah,
like from the 2000s going forward. And I say all the time, if Laid to Rest and Chromeskull came out a few years later, around when the first Terrifier dropped,
yeah.
and everyone went crazy with that, I think the Chromeskull films would have got a lot
Well,
bigger.
I also feel like it never really, like, he was trying to make that. Rob was very tenacious because he was trying to make it at a time when people were just starting to use DSLRs to film
Yeah.
their movies, which were like affordable small cameras. Like, they didn't have, like, now you can spend $2,000 and get a camera that looks like super cinematic.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's working with very small budgets. I feel like Damien, the timing was right, but like Terrifier 1 was like kind of like, let's see what I can do. Let's see how people like this. Like, he kind of towed the water, right?
Yeah.
And then, or it's with Terrifier 1. And then when Terrifier 2 hit, he was like, all right, I have to write a script that's meaningful, that has
Yep.
characters that people like, that really fleshes out Art the Clown. I feel like Art the Clown really came to life in Terrifier 2. I prefer the angry version of Art the Clown and Terrifier 1 a little bit more, but I feel like
I know
it got
people
its
who like the
opportunity.
first, and I
Yeah,
know people who adore this. I prefer the second in almost every way, and I
yeah,
love the first, and I love All Hallows Eve, which it's
yeah,
all the controversy with the Terrifier 3, with the teaser, with the kid going down for Christmas, and people like, there's a small thing on Twitter, people saying, "Oh, I love the first two films, but like, this is, if you go see this movie, it's supporting child murder." And I'm thinking, yeah, it's been, when was All Hallows Eve? 2010. He decapitates
yeah.
the two kids at the end. So what is everybody getting all crazy
Go
about
see
with this, with the
Jaws, alright?
controversy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go see
there's so
Steven
many films.
Spielberg's Jaws and watch Alex Kittner shoot up a fountain of blood in the water as a 10-year-old
The
in
Blob
front of a
was
beach full
one.
of people.
The Blob kill of the kid was probably, I think that was the first kid getting killed in a horror film that I saw, like fairly young,
Yeah,
and it still holds up. Like the effects
it
on that
does.
looks really good.
The Blob is great. The '80s Blob is great. My buddy Larry
Yeah.
here just said Pet Cemetery. I'm engaged getting hit by a
Oh
truck.
yeah,
Yeah.
great.
And then you have movies like, I remember the first child death that really affected me, because Jaws, I saw it so early, it didn't even like affect me later. I didn't even care. Um,
Yeah.
but um, there's a movie called Prophecy, and I don't mean the Christopher Walken Prophecy. There's a movie called Prophecy. I
Bear.
think it's Man Bear Pig from
Yeah,
South
yeah,
Park.
yeah, exactly.
is
It looks
literally
like
man bear pizza.
pepperoni sausage, like, effects
Yeah,
and,
and
like, the
it
prosthetic.
kills this kid in a spoiler, it kills this kid in a sleeping bag. It's been out for 50 years. If you haven't seen it,
Yeah, I have the
Um,
same attitude.
and he just smacks this kid, and he flies across, like, he
Yeah,
flies, like, 60 feet into a rock and explodes, and I was like, you
it's
know,
just
um,
hilarious.
it's nothing new. I think it just depends on the context
Yeah.
and how. I mean, it's not gonna be for everybody, but, just don't watch it.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
that's the
There
biggest
are
plus is that people, if they don't like something, they could just not look and not
yeah.
watch. But the thing with today is that people just love to bitch. So people just love looking at things and stuff just so they can complain.
Listen, I've been known to bitch here and there,
Oh, me
about
too. Well,
movies for
people can
different
testify to
reasons,
that, yes.
but there are films that are far worse in context than
Oh, yeah.
Terrifier or Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2 tries to
Serbian
make it a
film.
little cartoonish, and humorous. If you really wanna be shocked, go watch Martyrs, like
Mars
the
is great.
2008 Martyrs. Go watch a film like that or watch
A
some
Serbian film,
deep
that'll
stuff.
disturb
Yeah,
the shit out of you.
like yeah, or, what's the Autumn Underground film? I can't think of it,
Oh,
but
yeah,
there's
I know what you
yeah,
mean.
like, there look, it's not
August Underground, right?
August Underground, that's what I meant to
Is
say.
that Yeah, I
Um,
haven't seen them
yeah,
since they
it's
came out.
there's not everything's meant to be for everybody, so just,
Yeah.
if you're worried about kids dying in Terrifier 3, listen, I can't comment on it,
Yeah,
but if
yeah.
you're worried about it, wait till it comes out, ask someone who's seen it, and then, either watch it or don't. Who gives a shit?
I think the people who I have the same attitude too. I said I did a little, like, 2-minute video on that when the Twitter post came out. And I said, if anything, I feel like we need more bodies from children in our horror movies.
Yeah,
But,
be
like,
inclusive.
that, like, if you are a fan of Damien Leone, if you're a fan of All Hallows Eve and the Terrifier films and stuff, you know him to the line that he draws. You know that
Yeah.
it's not going to be a 10-year-old kid getting, the treatment of the major kill in Terrifier 2 with the salt in the wounds, the arm, right? You know that's not happening to a child.
I mean, it could happen.
It could, but if it
I
does happen,
can't comment on
I'll be
Terrifier
pretty
3 or
hyped about
anything
that.
that happens, but
Yeah,
even
no,
if it did, like,
I
I
love it
don't know.
that way. I don't like spoilers. I don't watch trailers. Like, a
Yeah.
teaser is one thing, and especially if I'm very excited. Maxine is the last one I broke that with. I watched the trailer for Maxine because I just can't wait for that film. What did you think of X and Pearl?
I liked X. I hated Pearl. I'm gonna be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I really loved X. For some reason, I don't know if I saw it at the wrong day. I went to the theater to see Pearl. I like ran to the theater to see Pearl, and I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood for it, I guess, and I had a little bit of a headache. But some of the
I guess.
movies that I love the most, I literally have like tattooed on me. The first time I saw them, I hated them. So I'm not a good judge. So I
Yeah,
got to give it another chance. Maxine looks like it's right up my alley, though. I love
it's got some giallo
exploitation.
aspects there for sure, and
Yeah,
exploitation
definitely
feel.
giallo and definitely some 70s exploitation
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
I
So
don't have a film. I think Ty West is one of the best directors of, like, his generation coming up. Like, I don't
he's
there's pretty much no film I don't love or at least like by him.
he's getting there for sure. I
Except
wouldn't say
Cabin
he's the best
Fever
yet
too.
because what's that?
Except Cabin Fever too, but he didn't even want to do that. So
I liked
we don't. I
Cabin.
don't.
I think it's
It's
like
fun.
it's dumb fun. Like if I
Yeah.
wanna that's a good like sleepover movie, like
Oh yeah. Like,
there's
and
just
those are the
a lot of
fun
humor in it.
films to talk about, like, and
Yeah.
just discuss and point out stupid. I do it all the time. Overanalyze like crazy. Point out logic flaws that you shouldn't be doing in, like, a film like Ghoulies 3, like Ghoulies Go to
Yeah.
College, like stuff like that. But it's just how I've always watched movies. But that's the fun of those films, is that you can pick apart little things and have fun with, like, technically bad films in most ways, but I can always pull things positive out of pretty much any film. But when you first saw Terrifier, did you see All Hallows Eve before that? Were you familiar with Art the Clown?
Yeah, I didn't really like I like half watched All Hallows Eve and I was like, that was cool. It was like a super indie. That was all right. And
Yeah,
then I saw Steve Barton had pushed Terrifier 1 down everyone's throats. Uh
yeah.
with through
Oh,
Dread
yeah.
Central. And I'd seen it. It was the second I saw it pop up. I think I was going through Netflix with a couple friends, and we saw actually one this egg of a man over here and
No problem.
and and we saw the it had a great thumbnail. It was just Art the Clown's face, and I was like, oh yeah. And then we were like, you want to watch this? And we just watched it. And it ended up I was like, this is cool, this is cool. It didn't make sense to me, but it was cool.
Um, what do you, I what do you think of I forget the guy's name. I always do. Who played Art in All Hallows Eve? But I mean,
I
what David Howard Thornton has done with the character is
I
really
think he
mind
was
blowing.
good. I think, I mean, that was one of Damien's friends. I think he did a good job. Damien tried to bring him back. He didn't want to do it,
Yeah,
from what I understand. But like, it's like what Damien says in like all the interviews about David Howard Thornton. Like, as soon as they did the audition, he was like, "Do we need to keep looking? This guy's like Roger Rabbit." That's exactly what he wanted. Was like that ability to mime and
yeah,
all that stuff. So I I think David brings a new life to it. I think David really thinks deeply about the character like a trained actor,
yeah,
and I don't know that Damien's friend was that. So I think it is definitely a step in the right direction for the character. And it's important to have someone that knows how to move and has a understanding of their body that can and full control over it in a way where it's like, hey, I can't talk. I know and I'm wearing a ton of makeup. I have to express myself in a
yeah.
way that's coming through all of that and translating to the screen. And David does a perfect job. I would be very sad if he ever turned down a Terrifier movie or ever decided he didn't want to
Oh,
be Art the Clown
yeah.
anymore because it just
I
wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't. I mean, yeah, like you said, he brought a lot of depth to that character, especially in Terrifier 2. And a lot
Yeah.
of that, well, not a lot of it, but a decent amount is due to the story being fleshed out, which
Yeah.
was a minor criticism for the first movie. There's no story. It's just a guy in a clown, costume going around viciously killing women. It's like, but that's what
That's
like
like
a
what's
slasher fans love. Like
yeah, that's what's
that's all you
charming about
need.
it.
Yeah.
Don't
I
get
mean,
too deep into the mystique, I feel, but
yeah,
it's yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, they're definitely two completely different movies that share the same
yeah.
character, but I just yeah, I like them both, It's I think they're awesome. I liked the first one when I saw it before I worked on the second one, and I was happy to be picked up for the second one and now the third one.
Oh, so now you're working on the third one. You can't talk about it. That's cool. That is
Yeah,
awesome,
I can
though, and I
confirm that
can't
I'm
wait.
working on it though. What's
Okay,
that?
cool. Yeah, I said that's awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to see your work. Everyone's work. Everybody has just put their blood, sweat, and tears into
Yeah,
this franchise so far, and it really shows because nobody saw the second film blowing up the way it did in
yeah,
theaters. I was shocked it was in theaters because I saw it when I saw All Hallows Eve maybe a year or two after it came out. Then I saw Terrifier when it came out and it was on Netflix. And I said, I can't believe this is on Netflix, like back then. And then
yeah.
when Terrifier 2 came out and it was announced it was going to be in movie theaters, I was like, wow. And then we got all the stories of people fainting and barfing, which if you see a movie called Terrifier 2 and you haven't seen Terrifier, I mean, you should know what you're walking into. Don't just
Yeah, but
walk
people are
into some
used to,
movie.
like, Saw and stuff, so I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
It's, I think that
I
was
think it's just his personality, Art's personality. And
yeah,
that
yeah, and
it's not hyper realistic, but it is playful, like you said
the
earlier, in a way.
nature of it makes, honestly, the only I stared at that stuff for hours and hours and hours, and there was,
Oh, sure.
one when I saw the movie was the only time I got a little nauseous. And for some
Yeah.
reason, it was the dumbest part, and I was like, "I don't know why." It's because 'cause I've had to stare. One thing about Rob is, like, he had us looking at references that were real. So if we
Mm,
worked on a movie where the werewolf was ripping some of the shreds, I was looking at bear attack victims for a week straight.
yeah.
Um, so I've seen some, it gets pretty macabre.
I
And
mean, not to interrupt, but that's like Savini, like, how he worked in the war and stuff back in the
yeah,
day, and how
yeah,
he saw the
but
real stuff
that's,
all the time.
with any visual effect or any special effect, you need realistic reference if you want it to look real.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but I never really got sick. The only time I felt nauseous in movies twice. Um, and one was when I was 7 years old and saw Jurassic Park, and I'll explain why I got nauseous in a second. And the other is like when Art's playing with the guts of the possum. For some reason, I was like, "Oh man!" And I guess I wasn't feeling good
I can
already,
see
but I
it.
was like, "Oh, that part grosses me out more than anything else." Like, fuck all the people, cut them up, dice them
Yeah,
up,
right? It's just that poor
package
pasta,
them,
man.
sell them, eat them. I don't care. But that possum gut, those possum guts, like, which I've seen
That's
in
too
real life,
funny.
like driving on the road. So I don't know why
Yeah, yeah,
it
all the
it
time.
just
And
got
so
me.
it's just the way it's
Um,
shot, I guess, the way that David shot it, and all of it.
yeah.
I mean, the
The
camera work is something that I think is very unique in the Terrifier franchise too.
Yeah,
That
it's
it
pretty
pays
cool.
homage to the
George
80s, but it does its own thing.
Yeah, George Struber is a great DP. He does a good job.
Hey, what's up, Pap, in the chat? We had a question
Yeah, there's a
from
few
Ginger.
questions I feel like
Yeah,
been
is
tossed
there
through.
any film, past or present, you'd have loved to have worked on?
Um, d I mean, that's a difficult question and an easy one. Yeah, I would love to have worked on anything from Indiana Jones, the early Indiana Jones, the early Jurassic
Great.
Park, Aliens, Terminator, like all of my favorite movies. Just name any movie and probably yes. Um, in present, I would have loved to work on Alien Romulus. I would have loved to work on that.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not quite there yet. See, like I'm in a weird position when it comes to visual effects, right? Because movies like Terrifier and like Wrath of Becky and stuff, like they have budgets, but they don't have huge budgets. So they
Yeah.
can't hire a studio uh to do their visual effects. So they hire a guy, that can handle it.
Yep.
Um Romulus has millions of dollars, so they're not going to hire a guy and like entrust all these important scenes and effects to some dude
Oh, yeah,
in
big
his
production
house in
studio,
New
effects
Jersey.
studio.
They're going Yeah. So they're going to they're going to hire like a studio that has like 500 workers that can do it right and bang it out. And I totally get that. It's I'll never hit that part where I work on like a huge thing. I do have a friend, Declan, that worked on Evil Dead Rise, which is pretty
Oh,
sweet.
nice.
But
What do you think of it, Evil Dead Rise?
I liked it. I liked it. Give me more Evil Dead. I don't care. I'm not like a purist. I'm not one of those people that sees like a remake or a new movie and I'm like, "Ugh, go fuck it." Making movies very difficult. And yeah, there are
Oh, yeah.
tons of bad fucking movies. There are some movies that should have never been made, and it's like,
Oh,
how did they
absolutely.
ever think this is a
How'd
good
they
idea?
get there? Yeah,
But
how were they
you know,
greenlit? How was it brought there? How does it
something
exist?
like I really, when the Evil Dead remake came out, I enjoyed it. Like I was like, that's awesome. Like this was
I love it.
brutal. It doesn't make the other three movies not exist.
Yeah.
Like pick and choose your own canon. It's all made up. It doesn't matter. I'm not like one of those purist people. I think more content's great, and I liked Evil Dead Rise. I felt a little like Diet Coke to me. Like I was like,
Oh, it's a little
there's something
tame
missing.
for an Evil Dead film. I mean,
Yeah,
Evil Dead
there's something
is
missing. But
yeah,
there's
it's
some
one of
I
my
got
favorite franchises in horror. I think it's
yeah,
it's perfect. It's one of the few perfect franchises.
I got
Even
a
with Evil Dead Rise being a little lackluster and my least favorite.
yeah.
Yeah.
I still liked it. I still liked I mean, that opening
Oh, yeah, it
credit
was good.
shot is one of the best opening title sequences ever. I
Absolutely.
love the peephole sequence. I thought that
Yeah,
was
that's great
great.
too.
So it has its spots. It's better than no new Evil Dead movie. You know?
Oh, yeah, and I
Um,
think we're gonna get them more often now, they've been saying,
yeah.
which is great because I loved the show, and it was a shame that that got, canceled after 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Loves
Yeah,
the
that
man.
that broke my heart. I like
Yeah,
Dana DiLorenzo quite a bit. I talk to her pretty regularly. and I was really bummed when it got canceled. I thought it was awesome show.
Yeah. But so let's I think that's all the questions there. Did you ever I had my friend Joe here, he's a huge Danielle Harris fan. Did you ever meet her when you
Yeah,
worked
I
on
know Danielle.
Hatchet 2 and Hatchet 3? How
Yeah,
is
we've
she?
worked
That's
on
what you
quite a
wanted to know, I
few.
guess.
It's so funny because I've worked on a lot of stuff she has worked on in
Yeah.
one way or another. Like she was in Chromeskull.
Mhm.
She obviously Hatchet. She's in Stream, which I did visual effects
Yeah.
on. But by
Oh,
the
you did?
time I touch something, I'm usually sometimes I'm on set, and I'm lucky enough to be on set. But a lot of times I'm usually on the. Everyone has gone home already, and it's now time for me to take on the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I talked to Danielle. She has some cool stuff in the works that I think we're going back and forth on. And we were just talking about Stream the other day. She's awesome. They want to have me on their
Oh, that
podcast at some
podcast is
point
great.
soon. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to do that at some point. But she's just an awesome person. She's genuinely one of the nicer people I've dealt with in the industry, and she, yeah, just solid all around.
Nice. All right, Joe. I think he left to go to bed, but if you'll see this in the morning, Joe, there's your answer. So he's telling me, can you get her on? Can you get her on? I'll try, man. But it's just so great being able to talk to all, like I said at the very beginning, before we went live, all these different people that either nowadays in this generation or that I grew up with in the older films that made these movies, that acted in these movies, that wrote in like, parts of these movies, who did effects work now. You're the first effects artist I've had on, so it's a pleasure.
Cool.
My
Thanks,
favorite
man.
movie of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing. And it's
Yeah.
the practical effects, I think, are still the best to this day.
Yeah, the practical effects are amazing in the thing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that
Um,
that blew my mind
Bouti
when I
yeah,
first saw
Rob
it.
Bottin is a maniac. Um,
The Howling, the
the
transformation too was great.
Yeah, the way they did everything in the thing is just crazy to me that he's so young too, like
Oh yeah,
such a young age, and using things like gum and like weird like just
mayonnaise, like every
yeah, it's just
slimy
so
shit there
cool.
is.
And you get that result. It's like, oh, it's awesome. I love asymmetry. I love when things aren't symmetrical, and I love when things look off and are like, that was my problem. I mean, I don't even want to talk about the Thing remake. That could have been
No, they're
awesome.
pretty cool.
They
Yeah,
did so many practical effects in that movie,
I
and they
know the
just
CGI
replaced
is
it
what ruined it.
all. They just replaced it all, and then like it just got so dumb. It's
I know, and there's
heartbreaking, but
no. I wish we would get a cut without the CGI, but then who knows
I
how much of the practical effects were. I know they did a lot of practical effects,
I think they
so
did
I
the
don't know
whole
how it
movie
would.
with practical
Yeah,
effects at
and then
first,
they just
and
the studio posted over the CGI and did that over it.
yeah, and
I'd
and
love
I
to
know the
see a
effects
cut.
team showed up to the premiere, and they got sick to their stomachs and walked out, like, within pretty early. I can't imagine seeing all my work just, like, painted over with just
Oh yeah.
bullshit.
I mean,
Ugh.
that's something you hear, with people who make the puppetry and the effect and stuff like the Critter Ball or In the Mouth of Madness, the big amalgamation and stuff, and they work tirelessly for weeks and weeks, if not months, on these effects, and
Yeah.
then it's 5 seconds of it ends up in the movie. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like as a musician and like who's written music and stuff, I can't imagine like writing a whole bunch of music and then like 10 seconds of it is like using a final product. Like,
Yeah.
can't
It's
imagine how
crazy.
that is, but it's got to be great seeing all of your great work, in the films that you've done so far.
Sometimes, yeah, it can be cool. There's sometimes where, like, I'll see an effect they did, and, like, the colorist will have, like, kinda gone a little too far with it, and I'm like, "Ugh, it doesn't look as good now." Uh, you know, um, sometimes if I'm not the visual effects supervisor and just a visual effects artist, I'll see, I'll see some changes and I'm like, "Why?" But
Yeah.
there are other times I watch a movie and I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome. I forgot I did that, and I'm glad I did." You know? And there are
Yeah.
other times, like in Terrifier 2, where no one knows I fucking did anything. Everybody thinks all the kills are practical,
Yeah.
and they're not, and there's a lot of invisible effects. There's not like a minute that goes by in Terrifier 2 where there's not some kind of visual effect,
Oh
whether
yeah.
I'm
You
erasing
can
a
tell
cable
looking at it.
or adding fire or, like all most of the kills had visual effects in them. And people just don't realize it because the narrative is like, hey, everything's practical. It's like, well, we
Yeah.
didn't use CG, but
Exactly.
every shot has a composite for the most part, every kill. So we'll see. I think there's going to be a lot of visual effects in 3. So from what I
I'm
hear,
sure that he'll keep
a
you busy
lot.
with that. Like absolutely.
Yeah. From what I've
Um.
seen, I've seen some cool stuff up front, and I know there's going to be that, and it's a Christmas movie, so there's going to be a lot of snow and decorations, probably. I'm
Oh,
assuming.
it'll probably make a lot of people's Christmas, time holiday slasher films, just like Thanksgiving did last year
Yeah,
from Eli Roth.
which is
Did you
great.
see that?
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
yeah. I
that
was
too.
supposed to work on Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
Um, I talked to Eli about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I think I think you might be the man for the job for some of these kills." And then at the
Those are
end of
great.
it, they edited it in a way where they didn't need me, and it was great. I thought it was great. I was like, I don't know what I would have done or added to this. It was just the way it needed to be.
Yeah.
I think Eli's, aside from Finn, his documentary, I think it's Eli Roth's best movie. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely up there with his best film. You got it, Jess in the chat.
yeah,
I don't recognize that Josh Petrino guy is a real cutie. She says.
yeah, yes, my girlfriend Jess DeBois,
How you
who
doing, Jess?
also worked on Terra. Holy shit! Predator just fell off my desk. And took a dive. Uh, Jess was
Uh,
also in Terrifier 2 and worked on
nice.
3 as a
How
production consultant.
how was doing all the visual effects work for Allie's kill in Terrifier 2? Because that kill is just
Oh, it's
insane.
cool. I erased some blood tubes and some puppetry sticks, and then half
Okay,
of her. A lot of people think it's just the eye, but a good chunk of her face on the right hand side is all visual
oh,
effects. It's the
cool.
actress's actual face. But that it was cool. As soon as I saw it, I was like, ha 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 ha, how do we get here? And Damien's very secretive, and
Oh yeah,
almost to a point of humor. Like he would not give me any context for any shots. So I wasn't seeing the whole
that's
scene.
great.
I was only seeing shot for shot what I was working on. So I had blinders on. So I really didn't see the movie piece together until the premiere, which is kind of fun and annoying at the same time. So I love you, Damien, and fuck you, Damien, at the same time.
That's too funny. Any projects coming up besides Terrifier 3 that you can talk about, or just
Yeah,
name
yeah.
drop here? People can
This
look out for you.
year, yeah, I have 4 films going theatrical this year that I worked on, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Um, I was an associate producer on Kevin Smith's new film, The 4:30 Movie, which is pretty awesome. I think it's
Nice.
one of Kevin's best films from just the rough cut that I saw. Um, I loved it. I worked on Stream, which is going to
Yeah.
theaters. It's having a limited run. I worked on, or I'm about to work on, Terrifier 3 and Shelby Oaks, which is directed by Chris Stuckman. They just announced that Mike Flanagan
Oh,
is
okay.
presenting it under his label, his Intrepid label. I was
I
a
love
visual effects
Flanagan.
supervisor on that. And that's a really fucking cool movie. I can't say anything about it, but there's some other stuff that I'm producing and other stuff I'm in. I'm producing and I guess helping direct um, a comedy for a friend of mine. My friend was just diagnosed with Parkinson's, and
Oh,
he
sorry
wants
to
to
hear.
do. He's getting through. He has great spirits. He's a very funny guy, and
Actually,
he's
my mom's cousin is Alan Alda from MASH, and
oh
he was diagnosed with Parkinson's like maybe
yeah
9 years ago, or something like that, 8 9 years ago. Yeah, but he's still good. He's such a humble guy. I don't see him often, but when my grandpa was alive, still it was his uncle, so
yeah.
I would see him. But great guy.
I- wow, yeah, no, I like Alan a lot. That's really cool. Yeah, not about the Parkinson's, but it's awesome that
Yeah.
you're related
No,
to him.
yeah. I knew what you meant.
Yeah, just to clarify. And yeah, it sucks. It's just, my friend Jason, he has it. He just wants to get as much cool stuff out as he can while he can.
Yeah.
So we just raised money. You can still contribute. It's the thing is in my Instagram profile, the link. But that should be a fun little short film. As far as horror goes, Terrifier 3 is going to take a lot of time, but I'm really focusing on directing and trying to get my own stuff out there this year. So or at least into production this year.
Oh, that'd be
So
great.
I have a couple films that I can't talk about. Well, one I can. One is a remake of a film I already made but hated, called The Devil's Tree, which
Okay.
stars Jonathan Davis from Korn.
Oh,
And
I saw you
yeah,
post something about that. Yeah, that's cool. I
yeah.
like corn.
So we made it, and there were too many cooks in the kitchen. It kind of got taken away from me a little bit, and I hated the result. And so I was like, all right, fuck these people. I'm gonna make it again, the
Yeah.
right way. I'm gonna Evil Dead to it, right? So I'm doing that. Hopefully we'll film this year, if not next year. This guy is actually in it. I put him
Uh,
in, I try to put him in everything that I do.
There you go.
This is
There
my
you go.
buddy.
And Larry, right? Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
directed.
surprised I remember that. I'm not great with names initially, but see, you got to give me props, Larry, on that.
he, he
That was fucking what 50 plus minutes ago that I got that name.
yeah, good job, man.
Right?
But I directed 2 music videos for the band Head PE.
Oh, okay. I know them.
Yeah, so they were like big in the late 90s and early 2000s. They're new
Yeah,
metal, they're
both
still
go
going. They
metal,
still
new metal.
tour. They're still playing festivals. So I
Yeah.
did
Nice.
a Friday 13th themed slasher music video called Death Trip for them. And then
Nice.
I did most recently I did I had like a literally like a day's notice to make a music video for a song called Waiting, um, which almost seems like there's political commentary in it, but it was really just no, we did what we can with who we had kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
and
miracle this thing exists for whatever go with it.
Dude, yeah, it was like it was literally like, hey, I have this music video. I don't like it. I want you to make a music video for us. By the way, you have no time to plan it, and you have to shoot like we have to have it delivered within like 5 days. And
Hmm.
the next 4 days I was booked. So I was like, I have one day to fucking do this.
Yeah.
And
I
so
can't. It's
we did it
crazy.
though. We did it successfully. And this guy is
Operating
in
under
both.
pressure. It
Yeah.
works.
So it did work. It did work. And I was surrounded by great actors, and I was surrounded by I had the right equipment. I know how to plan stuff at this point. So but horror wise, I hope I can make some stuff. I would love to make a slasher very soon, and just I might even just for the hell of it make a gory short film like in the next few months just to
Like
keep.
test the waters or so and stuff. I mean,
Not even test the
the
waters
people
because
you've worked with, I have no doubt you can make an excellent slasher. Just
thanks,
from like
man.
the crew you've worked with, and the Terrifier crew, the Hatchet, they're all friendly and they're all together in a
Yeah,
family.
yeah. I think I kind of know what I want to see, and I know how to execute it, and that's kind of my recipe. Is like, hey, I want to watch this, and I want to throw some gore in there, and uh, as long as I have a little bit of time to do it, that's the hardest thing is for me to find time. Then I'll definitely do it. But I'm at a point now where I hopefully don't have to prove myself because I mean. Terrifier
I
2
don't think so.
was, it's a great calling card, and this year I'll have had in the past 2 years, like, 2 music videos, a Hulu cartoon made by the Rick and Morty guys that has Matthew Lillard and Robert Englund in it, and,
Oh,
like,
nice.
5
You
movies in
said like
theaters,
4 or
so
5 films. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's
So,
good, good,
hopefully,
good.
I'll be able to
Congratulations.
make my stuff. We'll see.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, and you deserve it. And all
Thanks,
the
man.
work I've seen from you so far is absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, I
Um,
appreciate that.
let's end it with this. What is your favorite film of all time?
I can't. It's Sophie's
Yeah, I'm
choice.
throwing
I
you
can't
ass right on the
that.
spot.
I
If you got to
cannot
narrow it to
go for
horror
that.
top 3, I'll accept that.
I can't even narrow it to top 3. You don't understand. I watch like 2 movies a day minimum. Okay,
I'm the same
minimum.
way. I'm the same way.
And I'm
I'm a night
in
owl.
constant
I'm up all night.
rotation. So like, yeah, I would say no, but like there's favorite horror movie of all time. I mean, like there's so many. I can't even narrow down like subgenres. Like if you ask me my favorite slasher of all time, my head would explode.
Friday
Um,
Part 4 for me.
I love Friday Part 4, but I also like Part 6.
Yeah,
You
Part
know,
6
and
is
I
great. I just
also
had
love
CJ on recently who gave me a
yeah.
message to give to Kane when I told him I was going to New Jersey.
And Kane pretended like he didn't know who he was.
Yeah, that's funny as hell. Yeah, he
But
was
like,
great.
there's so many good movies out there. Just like I can't choose. I'll give you 3 movies I think people should watch. Okay,
Okay.
there's a movie called The Swinging Barmaids, and it's a '70s exploitation movie. There's like no nudity in it, but they act like it's gonna be like this big thing.
Like whole
Um,
nude production never happened.
yeah, yeah. Can you reset that with the broom? It's right in the hall, right across from the garbage can above. It's on the ceiling. You'll see it. Sorry.
No problem.
I have a smoke detector that's expired, and
Oh, that's the worst.
like the battery is fine and everything, but it's hardwired into our entire fire system, so I
Oh,
can't
so it's
change it
gonna keep.
myself.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
worst.
so I just sent uh baby Huey over there.
That's great. All
Okay,
right, so what was
but
the name of that first one?
Swinging Barmaids. It's on YouTube.
Alright.
This movie
Yeah, a
is
lot
a
of
slasher
70s films you
movie.
can find on YouTube.
It's before slasher movies became a thing. So there's no tropes.
Yeah.
So where you would normally see like the camera lurking behind windows and stuff, it kind of starts with that. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden the killer will just rush a door and kick it open and then grab the like none of the rules exist. So it
Yeah.
breaks all the rules if you've never seen it before. So it's a really cool movie. I love that one. I think everyone should revisit The Relic.
Relic's a good one.
1997, The
Yeah.
Relic creature feature. One of the few creature features that listens to reason, and people like Stan Winston, who said the best thing that ever happened to Spielberg or Ridley Scott was their creatures not working.
Yep, yep,
Because The Relic hides their creature very well for most of the
it
film.
does.
So I would say definitely watch those 2 and revisit even if you've seen it a million times, even if you've watched it a week ago, revisit Jurassic Park and just think about this one thing for a second. When Jurassic Park was made, okay, they at the time, the science was that dinosaurs dragged their tails,
Mhm.
okay?
That they were
They
more evolved from
they
reptiles
were
and
more evolved from
birds.
reptiles. Okay, but not only that, they were gonna make that movie with claymation.
Yeah.
And they had never made a living, breathing creature with CG. The technology didn't exist.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember, I'm 35, I'll be 36 September. Jurassic Park was, like, the first film, like, maybe 5, 6 years old that I remember of CG being just mind-blowing. That,
yeah,
like,
it
you
still
really
is.
felt like you was yeah, it still holds up to this. I just
Yeah.
did videos, like, discussions on the first 3. I can't be bothered with, like, the Jurassic Worlds and stuff, but
No,
the
no.
first 3 I have so much nostalgia for, especially the first 2, but it's still you have to, like, really look,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, I
like,
mean, there's
to
some scenes
notice
that
the
are
blend.
yeah, there's some scenes that are a little obvious, but when that T-Rex
Yeah.
comes out of the pin and bites the cables and stuff, oh my god, it looks awesome.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
the craziest thing is, like, they said, "Okay, we have X amount of money. All right, we don't know what dinosaurs look like. We don't know how they move. We don't know how their
Mhm.
skin moves on their muscles. We don't know how their muscles move. We don't know what they sound like.
Yeah, they had to fill in
Um,
the
we don't know anything about them at all. But we are going to make this new technology with computers to try
Yep,
to recreate the look. We're going to figure out how they walk and how they move and how they behave. We're going to figure out how they might have sound, and we're going to have them interact with humans and kill them. Um,
yep.
shot
That's
in the
one
dark.
undertaking.
a complete shot in the dark. Like, what
Yep.
are how many lifetimes would you need to get that right? You
Yeah,
know,
it's
with
capturing
all of that.
lightning in a bottle over and over again,
Yeah,
like, repeatedly
and
on one project.
repeatedly, it's like buying like 5 scratch offs and they all win $1 million. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah. It never
it's
happens.
astounding,
It's so rare.
and they made it happen. And not only is it like more than just an okay movie, it's considered a great movie. It's like now a classic. It still kind of holds up
Yeah.
with the CG, and
No,
it's
I think
just
it
like
holds up
to
great, the
take that
original.
chance and make it real and make it so that it's a good movie and not a piece of shit, and make dinosaurs convincing. Just I like just watch it again with that lens and think about what an undertaking that was. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I feel like a lot of people just turn it on, they don't appreciate it. It was the first of its kind. So I just rewatch it for me, and then also watch Congo and laugh your asses
Congo,
off because
I
the movie
love
is
Congo.
hysterical.
I
Me too.
love Congo. What a great underrated bad movie, but it's hysterical. Tim
It
Curry's
is.
great.
It's
Amy,
easy to
the mom,
watch.
all of it is great. And I love the look of the killer gorillas, the gray
Yeah,
gorillas.
it's
Like, that's a
awesome.
cool look back then. The
Yeah, they're
diamonds look
ripping
cool.
people's heads off. You got
And
Bruce
the
Campbell
lava.
cameo.
Yep. Great
You got I can't remember her
underrated
name, but
movie.
she's in Ozark now. You have,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
have,
Laura Linney. Laura Linney.
yeah, Laura Linney, thank you. You have
She's
Tim
great too.
Curry, and you have Ernie Hudson. Like,
Yeah,
what
the
more
the
could you want?
cast was great in that. And so
It's just
I'll throw 3 films out, back at you if you haven't seen or haven't seen in a while. It's mentioning, the first one being, like, earlier than the slasher tropes. The film I always point to as the film that pretty much started the path leading to the slasher craze of the '80s is Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve, or Bay of Blood
yeah,
from 71, 72. That movie, I think, is one of the earliest, if not like the earliest, like, proto slasher, because you took the
definitely.
giallo and you took the brutal kills and you took, I mean, everyone's a fucking murderer in that movie. So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's not really a spoiler if anyone hasn't seen it, but the brutality and then just the setting by the bay is so Friday the 13th, and then there's 2 kills from Friday 2 that are ripped directly out of that movie, like,
yeah.
Jeff Hassan just
I
goes a
never
double
made that
standard.
correlation before. You're 100% right. That's
Oh,
awesome.
I try to throw it out there all the time.
That's cool.
Bob is a favorite director of mine, so I always throw that out.
Yeah.
Second movie from the '70s, 1977, The Haunting of Julia, or Full Circle with Mia Farrow. You ever see that?
No, I haven't.
Check that movie out.
I'm definitely
Uh,
gonna write it
it's
down
a
right now.
very underrated. I just saw it a year and a half ago when it got a release, the first release since VHS in like the late '80s. And it was played on like television late night, like throughout the years, especially in the UK. So it was very, very not seen, unheard of. The score is one of my favorite horror scores. Like, it's a
Cool.
fantastic film. And I'm not a fan of Rosemary's Baby, which is like blasphemous to some people, but
Yeah.
this
No,
is the
I
Mia
just
Farrow movie for me.
yeah, I mean, I liked Rosemary's Baby when I was younger, and then I found out who Roman Polanski was, and I can't do it. I can't
Yeah,
separate the art from the
gotta get
artist.
full
Victor
edged.
Salva, I'll never see Jeepers Creepers. I've never seen it. I never will. I'll never watch anything that could give scumbags money,
I wish I
honestly.
could erase Jeepers Creepers 3 and Reborn from my memory completely, and most of 2 actually too. So you're
Yeah.
not missing out on anything really. That's great.
No,
But
I just yeah.
and if you got to rewatch something, Dead Alive or Brain Dead.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Dude,
my
I
favorite
just
zombie
rewatched
film.
that. I love
Okay,
it.
so there you go.
It's so
You already
good.
figured it out. You already got that homework done. It's so
Oh,
good.
yeah, dude, that's a classic. That's one of my favorites. I mean, it's
Uh,
like Evil Dead's cousin, like, it feels
Yeah,
like.
like just weird
Peter
twisted
Jackson is
cousin.
just a maniac.
Oh, Bad Taste is great. Meet the
That taste
Feebles, and like all his early, like he didn't waste anything, any penny
no.
with the budget for
Yeah.
any of those early movies. But that's some of the most impressive, like indie filmmaking, low budget filmmaking, with all the effects just alone in that film. Just in
Yeah.
the lawnmower scene alone, like,
Just the lawnmower
is
scene, yeah.
that's an insane amount of work going into all that. But all the stuff in that movie. So anyone in chat who hasn't seen Dead Alive for some reason or Brain Dead or any of the
Yeah.
movies we mentioned, definitely check them out. Everybody in chat, thank you guys for coming. Josh has been awesome. Great talking some horror with you and some practical effects, which I will always stand by 100%. And
Oh, it's a pleasure.
look forward to seeing more of your stuff.
Yeah, after some stuff comes out, if you wanna have me back, just shoot me
Yeah,
a
sure.
chat. I'd love to see what people think of some of the movies that are coming out this year. Um,
Absolutely. As time goes on, and you can say more about it or anything like that, if you want to send me promotional stuff, I'll promote the hell out of them.
cool, thank you.
Yeah, anytime. So everyone in chat, have a great night. I know I still have Abigail the review to do. It's done. I have to edit it. I didn't care for Abigail much. Did you see Abigail?
I did not yet. I've been so busy. I have to catch up, dude. I
Yeah,
haven't even
it's
seen freaking Ghostbusters, and that's like blasphemy. Like that is so bad that I haven't seen
yeah.
it. I missed Dune 2. I just the only thing I caught like late the other night when I couldn't sleep was Monkey Man, and that was the masterpiece. Awesome movie.
Monkey Man. I gotta check that out. I saw Frogman from this year. I haven't seen Monkey Man yet.
Dude, see Monkey Man.
Yeah, all right. I gotta
See it.
check Monkey
It's
Man out.
fucking cool. It's really cool.
All right, guys in chat, everyone in the rewatch who checks this out, thanks for watching. And just hang out for a sec, Josh, as I end this. I'll talk to you in a sec.
Yeah, sure,
Thank
sure.
you.